The scandal at the hospital sent invisible shockwaves through Enugu. Gossip spread quicker than rainwater on dusty streets. A married man fainting in his mistress's home. 2 women vying his bedside. The nurses caught between. Overnight, the private pain of one family became the public amusement of everyone else. Chief tried to piece himself back together, but something had broken inside him. No amount of rest, no ritual from mama deliverance, no apology from B soothed the panic that now stalked his heart each night, like a hungry wolf. He returned home from the hospital to a silence thicker than any lecture. Dutter did not yell, did not wail. Her stillness was punishment enough. At work, respect turned shallow. Old friends smiled thinly. Business partners kept their distance, and rumors buzzed in every corridor. Some pitted him, some mocked. Few offered genuine help. Every phone call began with small talk, slipped quickly into questions about that woman and the episode. Chief stopped picking up. B, once queen of confidence, found herself hunted by shame. Her social media following turned sour. Madam Competition became a local meme. Her boutique suffered as church elders whispered caution to their wives. Even the landlord left a note. Please vacate after this month. Renovations planned. Dutter, in quiet resilience, stacked her days with work and care for her children. She no longer waited for prayers to work overnight. She built her own peace, piece by piece. Friends tried comforting her. She nodded but distanced herself, refusing to let anyone else witness her raw wounds. The rift between husband and wife grew into a canyon. Chief's attempt at conversations ended in awkward silences. He brought flowers, gifts, apologies, but none could bridge what had been broken. Dutter listened, forgave with words, but her heart shifted further with every unsuccessful gesture. Meanwhile, B's life spiraled further out of control. With income dwindling and allies gone, she was forced to downsize, moving into a single room with only broken pride and a fading wardrobe as company. She swore to rebuild her image, tried to stage a dramatic apology at Chief's house, only to be turned away by the guards and mocked by neighbors. Every night, B scrolled through old photos, wishing for the power she once wielded. Every morning, she painted on dignity like makeup, telling herself today she would win him back. Today the city would remember her glory, not her shame. But karma, like a patient hunter, was not done with her yet. Mid-part suspense hook. When a family is fractured in public, can any piece of love remain unshattered? And when rivals fight for a home built on secrets, does anyone ever truly win? Chief's suffering was not just emotional. It quickly turned financial. The scandal's shadow crept into his business. Trust once built over years evaporated overnight. Partners began to cancel deals, citing vague concerns over reputation. Government contracts that once seemed a sure thing melted away like mist at sunrise. Even his most loyal employees grew uneasy, their loyalty tested by the waves of rumor and ridicule. Each morning, Chief dragged himself through motions, phone calls unanswered, proposals left unread, friends now strangers at meetings. The house, once warm with Dutter's laughter, felt colder, haunted by silence and regret. On the rare nights Dutter and Chief sat across from each other at dinner, their eyes met only out of politeness, their words never venturing beyond necessity. On the other side of town, B slipped from glamour to survival. Overnight, her status was reduced from socialite to social outcast, her days a blur of restless planning and dashed hopes. She took odd jobs behind a veil of borrowed dignity, styling for distant acquaintances, selling old clothes, and prepping business comebacks that never quite launched. Fiercely, she told herself that this was only temporary, that revenge was simply delayed, not denied. One evening, desperate for meaning, B tried to reconnect with Chief. She bought a bold new dress, summoned her most dazzling smile, and arrived at his office unannounced with food and a letter of apology. She never made it past the receptionist. "Madam, Olga isn't seeing visitors today, and I was instructed to call security if anyone from your side of town comes in," the secretary added, not unkindly. Humiliated but not yet defeated, B left, each step echoing with a new kind of loneliness. Dutter was watching, too. Slowly, without grand declarations or public tears, she began to shape a new life. She enrolled in vocational classes, started a side business selling handmade crafts, and expanded her children's world with stories and hope. At church, she sat a little straighter. At home, she smiled more often, not for Chief, but for herself. Friendships once left untended blossom again as word spread of her quiet resolve. People admired her spirit. Many confided their own tales of heartbreak. Mutual support became her shield. But even as she found new purpose, pain flared in unexpected ways. A routine grocery trip brought whispers and laughs as two women in line commented, "There's a poor woman who lost her man to Lagos fashion. Heard he fainted for side chic soup." Dutter ignored them. Some wounds ached more when denied attention. In her solitude, Dutter made a vow, "If peace will not find me, I'll build it with my own hands." Meanwhile, Bee's desperation reached new heights. One night, she called Mama Deliverance, demanding justice. "The ritual was supposed to make me queen. Why am I the outcast instead?" Mama Deliverance, unmoved, muttered, "You must finish what you started. Bring more, or risk losing all you have left." But Bee, out of funds and faith, snapped, "Do your worst." It was a final fraying of a bind neither woman truly understood. Suspenseful turning point. At rock bottom, will any of these three find a path to redemption, or will longing, pride, and shattered trust drag them down together? Rumors reached their peak when a local blogger posted, "Chief fainted for lover's cooking, but wife still prays for his soul." The story spun into new shapes in every market and roadside tea stall, each retelling sharper than the last. Chief tried ignoring the shifting looks he received wherever he went. Some days, his own employees avoided his gaze. One afternoon, during a high-stakes meeting intended to revive his business prospects, a director joked, "Chief, make sure our contracts don't collapse like your marriage did." Laughter rattled across the table. Chief forced a smile, but inside, shame gnawed at him. At home, boxes began to appear. Clothes folded, children's toys packed. Dutter wasn't making a scene. She was quietly preparing, piece by piece, to leave. One evening, Chief walked in to find her zippering the last suitcase. Panic froze him. "Are you leaving?" he asked, voice trembling. Dutter replied without a glance, "I am leaving my shame, not my home. I forgive you, Chief, but forgiveness doesn't mean I must stay. I need peace, not apologies." The word stung more than any silence had before. That night, Chief pleaded for a second chance, promising to change, to fight for them. But something in Dutter had already evolved, a quiet strength too dignified to reverse. She left before dawn, children tucked under her arms. The emptiness she left behind was louder than any argument. Chief's loneliness became total. In the days that followed, he wandered through an empty house, staring at block numbers on his phone, sometimes tempted to call Bee and curse her, sometimes fighting tears ignited by old memories. But something inside him whispered, "This is what you built. Now live within its walls." Bee, meanwhile, battled humiliation with pride. On Sundays, she dressed in black lace and dark glasses, marched to Chief's compound, and demanded an audience. Guards turned her away, and neighbors laughed, calling her Madam-in-Waiting. One day, Dutter happened to pass by. The two women exchanged only a limpid, haunting smile. "I hope you found what you were searching for," Dutter said gently before driving away. With every public defeat, Bee's determination only hardened. She told anyone who would listen, "I'm not here to lose quietly. I'll show the whole city who I truly am." She opened a roadside food stall selling acra to students, refusing to let ridicule stop her. Some women called her Madam Competition, and Bee found herself clinging to bittersweet humor. "At least this husband pays daily," she joked, frying a new batch as customers whispered. One bright afternoon, Dutter pulled up in a car with her children, gracefully bought a large serving of acra, and offered a gentle lesson. "I'm not here to mock you, Bee. Peace tastes better than power." Moved to tears, Bee whispered, "I understand now. I was fighting the wrong woman all along." End of part suspense. The city watched their stories play out, sometimes in judgment, sometimes in sympathy. But somewhere, deep within, Each character was learning there's more to survival than pride and more forgiveness than words. Chief wandered the city in search of anything to restore his dignity. He visited old friends, sought new business, attended church more regularly, always sitting in the back rows, avoiding the choir's hopeful gaze. The sermons on repentance and restitution cut deep. One Sunday, unable to bear the weight, Chief stood and confessed not only his failings as a husband, but his betrayal of trust and personal peace. The congregation listened. Even the choir mistress set down her tambourine. The video of his confession spread quickly, drawing mixed reactions. Some lauded his courage. Others mocked his late regret. Dutta watched with ambivalence, her heart learning the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. B, surviving on pride and small earnings, had her own reckoning. When her cousin read the news to her about Chief's speech, B hissed, "So now he's holy? God must be laughing." But as days went on and isolation grew, B felt the sting of her choices. Side jobs turned to side hustles, selling her phone, making roadside snacks, ignoring the stares and whispers. Sometimes she'd laugh at gossip about herself. Sometimes she'd curl into herself and cry. 1 month later, B received a legal notice. Chief's lawyer repossessed all property registered under his company name. Her shop, her car, her furnishings, all swept away with one signature and no goodbyes. Her cousin held her as she broke down, finally voicing the pain she'd bottled up since the affair began. Meanwhile, Dutta flourished quietly. Her business grew online. Her children thrived. She kept family close and old routines sacred, sharing stories, teaching resilience by example. Though Chief tried reaching out, she remained calm and composed, sometimes replying, sometimes simply ignoring. Chief's world became smaller, older, and empty. One day, he saw Dutta arranging boxes in a store she'd started, radiant and strong. He wanted to call out, but something inside him stopped. Respect, regret, fear, or perhaps a longing for the peace he'd lost. B, too, found herself changed. She watched Dutta navigate life with dignity and kindness and realized, I was fighting a woman who didn't even know where I had begun. B began to pray differently. Less for victory, more for healing. Final shot of part 2, setting the stage. In the closing days of Fallout, a quiet understanding settled over all three. Sometimes pain teaches what pride cannot. Sometimes losing is a first step toward becoming someone worth finding. And in Enugu, the city kept watching, waiting to see who among them would find peace, and who would keep searching for validation in all the wrong places. Enugu, once again, watched the trio, Chief, Dutta, and B, living with the aftermath of battles fought in public and wounds endured in private. The dust from the scandals had settled, but beneath the calm lingered stories yet untold. Chief had become a ghost of the man he once was. His laughter was rare, his ambition shrunken, yet something inside him, maybe pride, maybe love, maybe desperate hope, refused to give up. He began volunteering at the church, working with the less fortunate, searching for a redemption few believed he deserved. The very act brought him face to face with conversations he'd avoided all his life, about integrity, about faith, about true peace. One day, while cleaning the churchyard, Chief overheard a group of elders discussing family, loyalty, and forgiveness. Their words stung more than any sermon. Some men forget the difference between respect and attention. They chase applause and lose their homes. That night, Chief couldn't sleep. He pulled out an old Bible, reading passages Dutta once quoted. The words comforted him, but regret pressed heavier still. Elsewhere, Dutta's life was stretching into new horizons. She'd started mentoring young women, helping them find courage in heartbreak, wisdom in patience, and laughter in unexpected places. Her story, once a source of gossip, became a quiet symbol of resilience. Wanderers from all backgrounds sought her advice, not on love lost, but on self-worth reclaimed. Her children, perceptive and bright, soon saw a change in their mother. She read with them at night, taught lessons on dignity and kindness, and shared tales of real heroes, those who chose honesty over pride, hope over fear. B, meanwhile, lived among the city's outsiders. Her roadside stall provided just enough to survive. Her reputation, though battered, evolved into one of gritty endurance. Other women found her, sharing secrets and wounds. Many had suffered similar betrayals. Many had once been the other woman and wanted to leave that chapter behind. For the first time, Bee listened, offering empathy rather than envy. She attended group meetings, sometimes speaking candidly about ambition, regret, and the search for belonging. In helping others, she discovered new ways to heal herself. As months drifted by, their paths occasionally crossed, at weddings, funerals, market days, and festivals. No sharp words passed, only nods of respect earned by surviving. Chief occasionally spotted Dutter smiling in unfamiliar company, and every so often, Bee caught herself wishing for the innocence she'd once envied. But the city hadn't forgotten. Directors and politicians still whispered, "Careful who you trust." Chief Abiku learned the hard way. Children still sang mocking songs outside Bee's stall. The pain hadn't vanished, but it had transformed. Each carried their scars not as shame, but as a reminder. Then, one rainy evening, everything shifted. Suspenseful turning point. A fire at a neighboring market put everyone in danger. Dutter rushed to help those caught in the blaze. Chief followed suit, and Bee found herself pulling frightened strangers to safety. In chaos, their lines blurred. Old betrayals lost all importance when saving lives came first. In those moments, forgiveness began its slow return. When the flames had finally been conquered and the last embers cooled, the three stood together beneath the smoky sky, exhausted but oddly renewed. By some twist of fate, they had saved more lives working shoulder to shoulder than they had ever managed alone. Chief looked at Dutter, her face marked with soot and determination. He saw not the woman he'd lost of pride, but the partner who had always shown up when it mattered most. He wanted to apologize, but words felt clumsy in the presence of real sacrifice. "Thank you," he managed, voice raw. For a brief moment, Dutter's eyes softened and she touched his arm. No anger, no bitterness, just exhausted relief. Bee, still breathing hard from helping an injured child, found herself standing nearby. She expected scorn or dismissal, but Dutter met her with the same quiet strength as before. Bee said, almost whispering, "You saved that lady's life. I wish I'd understood things sooner." For the first time, Dutter truly looked at Bee, not as a rival, but as another wounded soul desperate for grace. We all fight battles no one sees, but today you fought for everyone. In the days following, the city began to talk less about old scandals and more about courage, resilience, and unexpected heroism. Chief's role in the rescue earned him humble praise, enough to convince some partners to give his business a second chance. Dutter's business flourished. Orders grew, her online platform blossomed, and Bee, surprisingly, saw a surge of sympathy and support. She was invited to speak at community meetings about overcoming shame and helping others. Yet, old wounds did not disappear magically. Each character spent long nights sifting through memories and regrets. Chief struggled with loneliness. He found himself drafting letters of apology to Dutter and his children, unsure if they would ever be read. He volunteered more intensely, hoping that service would burn away the stains he could not erase. Dutter, while thriving, still wrestled with moments of anger and hurt. But seeing Chief try to change and recognize her own strength, she allowed forgiveness to grow slowly in her heart. Not as a surrender, but as a path toward peace. Bee finally admitted to herself the extent of damage her choices had caused. She stopped blaming others and began the work of truly changing. In her speeches, she spoke honestly about mistakes and the pain of longing for love that was never hers to claim. The city, too, began to learn. Gossip faded and stories became lessons. Young couples came to Dutter for mentorship. Struggling business owners asked Chief for advice. Even Bee taught classes for women looking to rebuild reputations and self-worth after public mistakes. Mid-arc suspense hook. The journey to healing is never direct, and old ghosts often return when least expected. Will forgiveness truly take root, or will one final test shatter what remains? In the wake of the shared crisis, Chief's house steadily filled with cards and letters, some from old clients, some from grateful patients at the clinic, some from total strangers moved by the rescue story. It was as if the city was finally ready to forgive, if only he could earn it. One evening, an unexpected guest appeared at Chief's doorstep. It was Bee. She did not wear glamorous clothes. She dressed simply, her face open and vulnerable. "I'm not here to fight," she said quietly, "nor to ask for anything. I came to say thank you, because saving lives made me realize winning isn't always about being seen." Chief, surprised, offered tea, and for the first time since the rumors began, they spoke honestly, not as enemies, but as people humbled by experience. "I ruined too many homes," Bee said, tears in her eyes, "but yours was the first that taught me the price." They sat late into the night, sharing awkward pauses and hard truths. Chief apologized, not just for the affair, but for all the ways pride had destroyed what truly mattered. Bee forgave him, but more importantly, forgave herself. Meanwhile, Dudu, alerted by neighbors, heard that her ex-husband was entertaining guests. A pang of old worry hit her, then faded swiftly. She realized she was no longer bound by fear or expectation. Her happiness was her own, built from decisions she made for herself and her children. That night she recited a quiet prayer, not for a miracle, but for closure, for strength, for gratitude. The following week, Chief called Dudu, asking if they could meet one last time for a proper farewell. Not for reconciliation, he said, but for respect. Dudu agreed, bringing the kids along. Over lunch, the family shared laughter, recounted old stories, and exchanged gifts. Forgiveness was not a sudden flare. It was a gentle warming, a slow healing. Chief promised to always support Dudu and the children, and Dudu, in return, wished him well. Afterwards, the city spoke often of the trio, not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that even ruined bridges could be rebuilt with humility and sturdy hands. Bee kept working with women in need. Chief devoted himself to charity, and Dudu's legacy of wisdom blossomed from house to house.